Chapter 23, Verdict. A few hours later we had our first test in geology. The teacher passed out sheets of metal and small containers of paint. Many of the students complained in their minds about using these instead of datapads. The test was long meant to take the whole drawer. I started and tried to get ahead while I still could, but the middle caught up to me as usual. By the end of the drawer my processor felt like it always did after a test and I had to turn it in when it wasn't quite finished. This time, I had 3 friends worrying for me, but that didn't actually help at all. Afterward, we all walked quietly to Searchlight's room. Are you okay, Wave? What do you need? Searchlight thought. I needed to go to his creator symbiote shelter and bury myself under a pile of them. I was pretty sure that would make me feel better. This can't be healthy, can it? If something like this gets too bad, would it have a permanent effect? Breeze wondered. I shrugged. So far this term hadn't been that bad. Cable Reach had convinced most of my teachers to let me take tests separately, so this was only the second time I'd taken one in a classroom with everyone else. When we got to Searchlight's room, I told them I had things I needed to get done and went to my room instead. I would have liked to stay there the rest of the orn, but I actually did have some homework, so after I felt a little better, I made my way to the library. Ratchet and Shockwave were there working on their project, along with one of Shockwave's friends who was lying on the floor with his pads up on a bookshelf, holding a datapad in front of his faceplate. He was pretending to read, but was really paying attention to what the other two were talking about. I recognized him from one of my classes. His designation was Wheeljack, and from what I'd overheard from and about him, he was responsible for about 80% of the fires in the school, maybe more. I ended up listening to Ratchet and Shockwave as well. Their project was a proposal, a new way to refine energon. You know, Wheeljack said. Wouldn't it be cool if that really works? Ratchet scowled. Shockwave nodded, then smiled sadly. It's too bad we don't get to actually test it. But you could. You could build a machine that did it and then do a demonstration in front of the class. It's not supposed to be a demonstration. Ratchet growled. Why does he have to tag along? I'd tell him to go away, but I don't even think it would work. You could. Wheeljack set the datapad down and swung his arms out. Like, get a hold of some raw energon and actually build the refining thing, and then you could test it in front of the class. So you wouldn't know if it was going to work yet? That would be really exciting. And even if it didn't work, that's just part of the scientific process, failing and trying again. Bet you'd get extra points for that. The assignment, Ratchet said through gritted denta, is to propose a project, not do a project. Yeah, but you have to do all the calculations and stuff like that. Why waste all that work by not building it? I'll help you. I bet I can get Cable Reach to loan me some parts. He's usually really nice about that. No, Ratchet said. That's not part of the project, and this is not your project anyway. Well, then I won't make it part of the project. I could build it anyway. Ratchet glared at him. Jackie, Shockwave said. Sorry, he picked up the datapad. I mean, if I build it, it'll probably explode, so that might not be a good idea. You think? Ratchet muttered. But, he said. If you change your minds, or if you want to see if this thing will actually work. We'll let you know, Shockwave said cheerfully. Okay, he said. I'll go ask Cable Reach if I can borrow some stuff. Also, I think I have homework that I didn't finish. He swung his legs down from the shelf and got up. There's that book one I'm supposed to be reading for history. Ugh, that class is going to be the death of me. I wonder if I can find a way to connect my processor directly to the datapad in a way that will write all the facts into permanent memory. That sounded like a very bad idea. Why would this school so full of insane mecha? He walked out from between the two shelves, nearly ran into me, and jumped a little. Eep, oh hi. He said. You're Soundwave, right? I've heard of you, you're friends with Searchlight. I nodded. I'm Wheeljack. Nice to meet you. I have to go check out Primus. I left that thing running in my room. I have to go. He took off in another direction. I shook my helm and went to start my homework. Into Cairns, Retroquake said, we are going to go on a 3-orn field trip. I had known this was coming and had warned the others, so Searchlight was already excited about it. Retroquake continued. You will all need to go to your other teachers and ask for their signed permission to miss these orns of class. If you can't get their permission, you can't go, so get your best turbo puppy look on. That means you, hot pink. Thundercracker scowled. Not quite. Keep trying. Thundercracker rolled his optics. He thinks he's so funny. I'll pass out the forms at the end of class as you leave. This first field trip, we usually don't go too far, but this term, I'm taking you to the Sea of Rust right away because the weather there is predicted to be particularly inhospitable later in the term. The atmosphere in the class was a mixture of excitement and a little bit of worry. Searchlight was excited, which was actually the reason I was a little nervous. Crescent and I had flown over the Sea of Rust once, and it wasn't very interesting, but it was vast, and it seemed like it would be easy to get lost in. Retroquake started talking about the Aeolian system, how wind picked up dust and rust and gravel, and how they built up in some places on the planet, and not others. After class, we got the forms that needed to be filled out and left. We could get all of these done this orn, Ratchet said. I can probably find all of my teachers. Or we could wait until next orn, when we're in class with each of our teachers, Searchlight said. But what if we forget? Go if you want. I'm not stopping you. Fine, I will. Ratchet turned and walked the other way. So, Bree said. I have a lot of homework and I don't usually get much done when I go to your room. Okay, Searchlight sighed. I'll see you next orn, Breeze left. What about you? Searchlight turned to me. You going to abandon me? I have to talk to Cobblerech. Earlier in the orn, he had passed me in the hallway and asked me to come to his office sometime after classes. Yeah right, Searchlight said. You're just making that up. I shook my helm. I can't tell if you're joking or not. I'm not, I said flatly. Searchlight's optic ridges shot up. Whoa, say that again. That was so cool, use that voice again. This voice? I asked, speaking as emotionlessly as I could. Yes, Searchlight said. Wow, it's creepy. That's so cool. You could freak Mecha out with that voice. I shrugged. I was in the business of trying not to be creepy. So I wasn't quite as excited by this as he was. I do have to taw out to Cable Reach. He nodded. Okay. Well, have fun. I went off toward Cable Reach's office. I had a question for him about something I hadn't quite understood about the assigned reading for his class, so I might have gone to talk to him anyway. I knocked on his door when I reached it, and he let me in. Oh, Soundwave, good, he said. So, I've come up with an actual plan in case Verdict manages to convince someone about your abilities. I nodded. I'll give you the code for the door of my office, or do you know it already? I nodded. I knew the key codes to most of the teachers' doors. If something happens and your secret's not safe anymore, I want you to send a message to my datapad and then come here and wait for me. If it's very serious, let me know and I'll try to get out of whatever class I'm teaching. No one knows I'm your ally right now, so this is probably the safest place to hide until I can get you out of the school. You'll go to Econ from there. I have a friend we can trust in Econ. I haven't talked to him about it, but he will almost certainly be willing and able to hide you. I nodded again. If it became necessary, I could rely on Kaboriach's judgment about who to trust. How are things with Verdict and his little gang? Kaboriach asked. Do you want to tell me what they've been getting up to lately? I've heard some unsettling rumors. I shrugged, and he handed me a datapad to write on. I wasn't sure whether to tell him about Searchlight's recent activities. I didn't want to get him in trouble. Just the usual. There was something I ought to tell him, though. But someone else knows about me now. That's not good. How did that happen? Who, and how did it happen? Breeze. She's a Praxian. A fourth-term student like Searchlight, Ratchet, and Searchlight accidentally said something within her hearing. I do trust her, though. Kaboriach leaned forward and rested his chin on his arms on the desk. I'm still a little worried. The more who know, the more dangerous this gets. I know. Please be very careful. How is Searchlight doing at ignoring Verdict? Not very well. Kaboriach sighed. Please tell me he's trying at least. He had been, at the very beginning. I shrugged. Maybe I should call him in and talk to him. It might not do much good. He was trying at first, but the way they treat everyone really bothers him. Okay, Kaboriach said. Normally, I would have to admire that, but he's putting his friends in a lot of danger. I still might call him in at some point. Was there anything else? I nodded. I had a question about the reading for next Orn. Go ahead. Oh, and can you sign this? It's for me to go on a field trip for geology in a few decairns. Sure. Kaboriach took the form. So, what was your question? We talked for a little while. When I understood the concept I'd been confused about, I left Kaboriach's office and went to Searchlight's room. I took the long way so I could pick up Ravage. Searchlight was alone when I came in. He was skimming through a reading assignment for one of his government classes. Ravage jumped off of my shoulders and sat on Ratchet's desk chair, waiting. I sat down and started doing homework. So, what did you talk to Kaboriach about? I shrugged. He set down the assignment. Anything new? I looked up as some other students came into my range. Not Noel. He frowned. Huh. There was a knock at the door. Oh. Someone's here. Just come in, it's not locked, Searchlight said. The door opened and two of the students in Searchlight's anti-verdict group came in. Searchlight, one of them said. Axel is in Okra's office. What? Searchlight stood. Why? What happened? It was Verdict, the other student said. Searchlight made for the door. I hesitated, then got up and followed him. He and the other two students made straight for Okra's office. The door was open and Axel was sitting on the berth, with a dented faceplate and several other small injuries. Hi. He grinned as he saw Searchlight come into the room, then let out a little squeak of pain, and put a hand to his damaged faceplate. What happened? Searchlight asked. Okra came over. Oh, Searchlight, I was wondering if you'd show up this Orn, she said. Did someone else get hurt? No, Searchlight said. I just came to see Axel. Well, I'm almost finished with him, she said. Why don't you go wait in the hall? Verdict did this. I wonder if Searchlight was somehow involved too. He always seems to be involved somehow. But, Searchlight said. Go. We went out into the hall while Okra finished seeing to Axel's injuries. When she was finished, Axel came out and we all started walking back the way we'd come. So what happened? Searchlight asked again. I saw Verdict picking on a first term and went up to him and told him to stop, Axel said. He seems really happy about it. Primus, I did that, didn't I? I convinced him to do things like that. Axel, Searchlight said. I'm really proud of you. Thanks. But try to be more careful in the future. It's better when you have friends to back you up. If they catch us alone, they can just beat us up, but if we try to stay in groups, it'll be harder for them. Makes sense. Yeah, Axel said, then felt a little more solemn as he remembered what it had been like when Verdict had attacked him. You're right that standing up to them is scary. But I did it. Yeah, Searchlight said, feeling kind of sick. I'm sorry you got hurt. I'm okay, Axel said. I think it was worth it. When's the next meeting? Next Orn, Searchlight said. I'm looking forward to hearing all of your ideas. Axel and the two others turned and went a different way. Searchlight and I headed back to his room. It's not just me anymore, is it? Searchlight said. I shook my helm. I'm not sure how to feel about that. Worried or excited. I don't really want any else to get hurt. But it's good that they're standing up to Verdict. Personally, I was just worried. I knew Verdict had no intention of giving up, no matter what. We got back to Searchlight's room. Ravage, who had been asleep, looked up when we came in. He had been hoping we were Ratchet, but he was glad to see me too. Searchlight and I both went back to our homework. Jazz was careful not to think about the plans he and Verdict were making whenever he was around me. Being in the same term and emphasis computer science, we had a lot of classes together, but I got very little of anything from him over the next decairn, except the knowledge that they did have a plan for getting Searchlight expelled. So I decided I would have to find Verdict instead. I knew his class schedule and the places he liked to spend time, and I picked up from Jazz that there was going to be a meeting in his room. Two more students had stood up to them and gotten hurt for it. I hoped Kaboriach didn't connect the dots and figure out I hadn't been entirely honest with him about how involved Searchlight was in opposing the bullies. I also wished that Searchlight would stop encouraging the other students to stand up to them. One way or another, someone was going to get in trouble. I walked down the hallway where Verdict's room was and stopped when I was in range of it. There were other students around, in their own rooms, but it wasn't hard to pick out the conversation I wanted to pay attention to. I told you, it's gonna be another decairn. Okay then, Verdict said, hey, didn't you say you found out that they're going on a field trip then? That would be a perfect time. Wow, Verdict? Jazz raised an optic ridge. Nah, I don't think it would. Verdict thought about what he just said. Oh, right. Searchlight can't have stolen something if he wasn't here. They kept talking, and I pieced together their plan. They were going to steal something, probably from the headmaster, and frame Searchlight for it. They couldn't do it before the field trip because Jazz needed to figure out a way to mess with the security cameras to make Verdict look like Searchlight on them. But they would probably strike soon afterward. This wasn't something Searchlight and his little club could come up with a counterattack for. And if any of them knew, it might get back to Jazz or Verdict somehow. It would be better, I decided, if I didn't tell Searchlight yet. As soon as the bullies realized we knew, they'd change tactics, maybe coming up with something even more difficult to prevent. So I waited as the horn of the field trip drew nearer. The trip itself was optional, but if you didn't go, you had a lot of homework instead, and so 3/4 of the class planned on going. I had hoped that Verdict and Jazz and Motormaster would leave us alone for a while, now that they had a plan to get rid of Searchlight, but the horn before the field trip, they showed up at his room. It was right after geology. Searchlight was holding a meeting then, and I hadn't gone to get Ravage yet. I noticed Verdict and his friends coming before they got here, but if I said anything, then all the others would wonder how I knew. I tried to signal to Searchlight that I needed to talk to him, but he didn't notice. So I used my datapad to send a message to someone else because I figured we might need some backup. And then the door, which had been left unlocked, opened. They all looked up. Hey. Searchlight got up from the berth and glanced at me. Why didn't you warn me? I held out my hands and shook my helm. I had tried to warn him. Everyone watched as Searchlight crossed the room. What do you want? He asked them. I keep telling you that this is your last chance, Verdict said. But this time I mean it. He stepped into the room. You've got 4 horns, he said. And then you're out of this school. Soundwave, you'd better be figuring out what they're planning. And you've got 2 breams to change my mind about it. Know what? Searchlight said. You're too late. What? Verdict narrowed his optics. I don't really care if you found some way to get me expelled. You should have done that the first time I stood up to you. It's too late now. See these mecha in here. If I'm gone, so what? They're still going to stand up to you. Verdict glared at him. Well, maybe I'll just have to get all of you expelled. You can only do that so many times before someone stops you, Searchlight said. There's no way you can win. Verdict shoved Searchlight, who stumbled back, almost crashing into his desk. Once you're gone, he said, they'll go back to being what they were before. Unlike you, they know their place. Don't make him angrier. You sound like one of those cheesy villains from a holovid, Searchlight said. He has a point there, Jazz thought. Verdict lunged at Searchlight, who dodged out of the way, but Motormaster grabbed him and threw him to the ground, face first. Verdict turned and kicked him, then stomped down on his helm, shoving his faceplate into the floor. Wow. You're really good at beating mecha who are already on the ground, a voice said from the doorway. Verdict looked up. Of course, I already knew it was Thundercracker, who I'd messaged when Verdict and the others had come into my range. He slipped past the others Verdict had brought and came into the room. You, Verdict said, narrowing his optics. I wasn't aware this was your fight. Thundercracker frowned at him. Well, you only locked me in a fragging closet. It's not like that might bias me against you or anything. I can do it again. Thundercracker didn't flinch, though a flash of fear did light up his emotional core for a moment. And I'm a seeker, so I'd like to see you try to get me expelled. One of the other students used the distraction to throw himself at Verdict with a shout. He actually managed to push the older student over, and Verdict crashed into Searchlight's desk hard, scraping some paint off of his arm. Everyone froze. Verdict and his attacker stared at each other for a moment, then Motormaster grabbed him and twisted his arms behind his back, then lifted him by his wrists until he was barely touching the ground and all his weight was riding on his shoulder joints. Verdict pulled back to punch him in the faceplate, but Thundercracker's hand shot out and caught Verdict's. You really want to do that with so many witnesses here? Thundercracker said quietly. I'm sure someone's recording it. Verdict hesitated for a moment, then yanked his arm away and shoved past Motormaster. Drop him, Motor, he's not worth it. Motormaster dropped the other student, then kicked him into the room where Searchlight was getting to his pids. He collided with Searchlight and they both collapsed again. Verdict shoved past Thundercracker and left, with Motormaster following him. As soon as they were gone, Axel went to help the student who'd attacked Verdict up, and Breeze came over to pull Searchlight to his pids. Searchlight winced as he stood and put a hand to his helm. Are you okay? Breeze asked. Yeah, I'll be fine. It's not like it's the first time something's dented my helm. Well, there's a surprise, Thundercracker said. Glitched idiot. Thundercracker, thank you, how did you? Soundwave messaged me, Thundercracker said. I forgot to tell why you, I said to Searchlight. He saw aid. Yeah, I was wondering why you didn't approach me about it. I told him if you were making a stand against Verdict, you could count me in. Oh, Searchlight said. I should have invited you to the meetings. I wouldn't have come, Thundercracker said. And don't expect me to do this again either. He turned and walked from the room. They all watched him go, taking a moment to get over the strangeness of that encounter. So, Searchlight grinned at his silent audience. Who was it who said we can't convince Verdict to back down? They cheered. Searchlight, Bree said quietly. We probably need to get you to Ochre. I am totally fine, Searchlight said, which was a lie. His helm hurt a lot. Everyone else okay? Yep, the student who'd attacked Verdict said. They finished talking about strategies and what they should do while Searchlight and Breeze and Ratchet and I were gone on the field trip. When the meeting was over, Breeze talked Searchlight into going to see Ochre. Ochre was about as pleased as she usually was to see Searchlight, and he didn't even try to claim the dent in his helm had been from tripping. She wanted to do some deeper scans to make sure there weren't any sort of internal injuries, and that was going to take a while, so she kicked us out. We went back to Searchlight's room. I went and got Ravage, and we did homework and waited for Searchlight to show up again. It took him until less than a jur before lights out. Well, that took forever, but my helm's alright, Searchlight announced. Ugh, now I have to stay up and do homework. Sorry you mechs waited here so long. And fem, Breeze muttered. And fem. Searchlight nodded. I'm glad you're not dying or something, Breeze said. See you next Orn for the field trip. Bye. She left. I can't believe this field trip, Ratchet said. The Orn we get back, I have to present a paper. Why couldn't we have had this next to Karen instead? No idea, Searchlight said. Hey, Wave. I looked at him. Thanks. Thanks for sticking around this time. And for calling Thundercracker in. I shrugged. Do you have any idea what Verdict has planned? How is he going to get me expelled? I hesitated. Should I tell him? I'd been planning to explain it during the field trip since they didn't intend to carry out their plan until afterward. Searchlight frowned. What does that mean? Surely he's figured it out. Verdict was right there, talking about it. Be Palatine, I said. What? I shrugged and got up to leave. Come on, Searchlight said. You know, don't you? Why won't you tell me? Please. If I had optics, I would have rolled them. Ravage followed me out the door and jumped up onto my shoulders, nearly knocking me over. Next door was the field trip. That was good. It would be nice to get away from Verdict and his friends for a while, and I was looking forward to being out in the middle of nowhere where it would be more quiet.